Good evening. Thank you for coming. I think he's reading. Okay. Scott mentioned on the blurb on the website that this is an interest of mine. I'm not an archaeologist or an astronomer, but I have an interest in both those subjects. And when I read something that combined the two, I was fascinated and tried to find out as much as I could. And this is a small part of what I found out about this new discipline called Archaeoastronomy, which was developed late last century by an American called Anthony Aveni. And it looks at the orientation of archaeological sites, buildings, with astronomical significance. So this is my interest, and I hope it'll interest you. Okay, so let's begin. We know that the pre-Hispanic societies had a broad knowledge of the sky and what occurred in the sky, and an instance of that is their calendar. This is the calendar of the year, which begins in the month... Oh, Scott, what have I done? Oh, okay. The year begins in the month Pop, and there are 18 months of 20 days and 5 unlucky days at the end of the year, and then it begins again. Okay? Combined with this year calendar was the ritual calendar with 13 numbers and 20 days. And this combines with the year calendar, and the 3 numbers recur every 52 years. And this is a cycle in Mayan terms, what equivalent to our century, and then the time begins again. Okay, so they were obviously very aware of what was going on, counting the days and getting them accurate. And we know from their codices that they were aware of astronomical events. This is from the Mnemonic Codex, and it's an illustration of the day and the night. These eyes signify the stars. Okay. Here we have the eyes again, signifying the stars. A figure, this symbolizes looking at the stars, and this is said to represent a Mayan astronomer studying the stars in the sky from the Madrid Codex. And this one is from the Mendoza Codex. An Aztec priest studying the sky. Here are the eyes that represent. Here it says, this painting of eyes signifies the night. And here it says, the Alfaqui Mayor, which probably means the high priest, is looking at the stars in the sky to tell the time, which is his office and his task. So the codexes tell us that this was an official occupation, and obviously they put a lot of time into this systematic and constant looking at the stars. Apart from these references in their writing, we know that the archaeological buildings themselves were designed to record celestial phenomena, and this is also pictured in the codexes. Here, from the Bodley Codex, we have 3 temples or doorways which were probably used to fix certain points on the horizon where astronomical events occurred. And in 1906, Zelia Nuttall suggested that these crossed sticks were probably used as an aid to observation of the celestial phenomena. So, as well as individual buildings, here we have the whole plan of a city that has a specific alignment with these dates, the 9th of April and the 2nd of September. These dates are 73 days before and after the summer solstice. This figure of 73 days will recur throughout our talk. So this is the new discipline that was developed just a few years ago, investigating the solar phenomena on certain dates of the year, observed from special points in the landscape or from structures specifically built to look at these or record these phenomena. So let's go to the Mayan lowlands. Is this area here, Yucatán, Quintana Roo, Campeche, Tabasco, Chiapas, and a part of Guatemala. In this area, they have discovered that 300 buildings in 87 archaeological sites have some astronomical orientation in this area of the Mayan lowlands. 80% of the findings refer to sunrise and sunset, not including the days of the equinox. These dates that they have discovered align with present-day festivals in communities now, agricultural festivals. The most common dates that they've recorded, and this is in all of Mexico, are the 12th of February and the 30th of October. And these dates coincide with the beginning and the end of the agricultural cycle. And curiously enough, or maybe not so curious, they're separated by 260 days, which is exactly equivalent to the Mayan sacred cycle, the Tzolk'in, the count of days. So, as well as sunrise and sunset, they were interested in recording the exact moment of the sun passing directly overhead at the zenith, and these are the dates on which the sun passes directly overhead going north, and in our area it's between the 23rd and the 28th of May, and the sun passes directly overhead. And there are buildings specifically designed to record this. Let's begin with the most famous conjunction of astronomy and architecture in Yucatán, and this is the sunset on the days of the equinox, spring and autumn, when the sun shines on the stairway and gives the impression of the serpent descending. But there's a lot more to this pyramid than just this occurrence on the days of the equinox. Here, for example, we can see that at the time of the summer solstice, the sun passes directly over this point of the pyramid. At the equinox, it passes directly through the centre of the pyramid, and in the winter solstice, it passes at this point of the pyramid. At the zenith, it passes here and shines on the temple. At the time of the solstice, in June and December, the shortest day and the longest day of the year, at sunset, this part of the pyramid is illuminated, and in summer, the 21st of June, at sunrise, this part of the pyramid is illuminated. At sunset, on the day when the sun reaches its zenith, the sun shines directly on the facade of the temple at the top of the pyramid and enters the doorway and illuminates the interior at sunset on the 24th of May and again on the 19th of July. The pyramid is also at the centre of a cosmogram. There are 4 cenotes. Here, we'll have a look at this one. Here is the famous one, the sacred cenote, the cenote Stolok, and there's another one here. And the pyramid is at the centre of this cosmogram. When we look at the cenote, then we'll have a look at the observatory and the ossario and the ball court, and have a look at the orientation in those places. This cenote was deliberately carved here into a rectangle in order to channel the rays of the sun directly into the cenote at the time of the zenith, the 23rd of May. In this way, I think they could make precise measurements of the time so that each year they would know exactly what time it was, because this phenomenon occurred, and so their calendar was as precise as they could make it. And this was important not only for agricultural reasons, but also because of ritual or religious reasons, so that they performed whatever they had to do at the correct time. Here's the famous observatory, and here are the alignments that have been discovered in this observatory. The corners point to the solstice, sunrise, and here sunset in winter on the 21st of December. Here, this stairway is aligned directly with sunset when the sun's at its zenith, and this stairway, which is not at the same angle, is aligned with Venus at its northern extreme, which is on the 4th of May. Here are some other alignments. These are the 2 brightest stars in the sky, and it's obvious that there was an alignment with these. This is as it is now, and these are the alignments that you can see. The position of Venus in the south, Venus in the north, the sun set at the equinox.
What are the stars? Which stars are they?
The stars were Castor and Canopus. Where am I? Here. And apparently these are the brightest stars in the sky. I don't know them, but that's what they say. You're from the northern hemisphere, so maybe you know these stars. Okay. So this is as it is now, and these 2 openings are aligned directly with the solstice and the equinox. So the sun appears in these at that time. This overhead view shows us these vents, and this slide shows what these were used for. This is an estimation or a representation of what those vents were for, a movable sighting platform, so that they could look at whatever they wanted to observe. This is the Temple of the Jaguars. It's on top of the biggest ball court in the Mesoamerican world. And here the orientation is with the sun set at the time of the zenith, and the sunset setting shines directly into the temple here. There's a small platform called the Venus platform, and this is a plaque from that platform. Venus was very important to the Maya. After the sun, there were more observations of Venus than any other object in the sky. The moon was important, but mostly in the northeast of the peninsula. In Quintana Roo, for example, because we know that the goddess of the moon, Ixchel, was worshipped in that area, and the orientations with the moon are more common in that area and not in Yucatán. But Venus was important because it represented death and illness and battle and war. But it also, Venus orbits the Sun in 225 Earth days. But from our point of view, it takes 584 days to return to its original position from where we first observed it. And they calculated these 584 days. The modern scientific calculation of this period of Venus is 583.92 days. So what's 0.08 between people? So Venus was important because the northern and southern extremes coincide with the beginning and the end of the rainy season. And so the appearance of Venus at its northernmost point and southernmost point was an important indicator of when the rains were going to come and when the rains were going to stop. And this plaque is very interesting because here is the glyph for Venus. Here is a bar which represents 5 in Mayan counting. Here is the glyph of the year, and there are 8 circles representing 8 years. 5 periods of Venus is 2,920 days, and 8 years is exactly the same number. So 5 of these coincide with 8 of these, another way of keeping their calendars and their dates as accurate as possible, I think, and interesting mathematically. Okay, so we're going to have a look now at this building called the Osario. It has the same shape as the main pyramid, as you can see, but it was constructed in order to record the passing of the sun at the zenith on the 23rd of May. This shaft is 10 meters into the ground, and the point here points to the west, this spike pointing to the west. And so they recorded the passage of the sun at its zenith. Here is a cross-section showing how the sun penetrates directly into the shaft. It also records the equinox and the solstice. This is the temple of Shtolok, and it's usually in darkness, except on one day of the year when the sunset shines directly into the doorway of this temple. And we can see here the alignment of the temple. This is the temple we just saw, and this is the osario that we saw before, and these are the alignments with the edges of the stairs here and here, and directly overhead at the zenith, shining into the temple. This is another example of the same temple viewed from the temple of Stolog. The sun sets here on these dates, passes here directly overhead on these dates, sets here on these dates, and then returns to here on this date. The second most famous equinox event is Zibul Chaltun, when the sun appears directly through the doorway of the Temple of the Seven Dolls. This happens at the time of the equinox in March and September. This tower is designed to record the passing of the sun at the zenith, and the sun is directly overhead on these dates. As the sun sets on the days of the equinox, this light gradually moves up the wall, and at the moment that the sun sets, the illumination is here and disappears at the moment of the setting of the sun. Incredible construction. And how long did it take them to work that out and decide to build this? There's another structure, 38. On these dates, the sun shines through this building directly into this temple here. These dates are important. We'll see them again. The 4th of March and the 9th of October are related again to the agricultural cycle. The burning off, Las Quemas, it's called, is the burning off of the weeds and whatever before the planting can begin. And I saw on the news last week, that this burning off will begin next week. Coincidentally, next Monday is the 4th of March. And so these dates are significant. What else is significant is that the 9th of October is 73 days before the winter solstice, and the winter solstice is 73 days before the 4th of March. This figure of 73 we saw before, and we'll see again. It's significant because the year can be divided into 5 73s. 73 is exactly a fifth of the year. So, in Oshkintok there are a couple of architectural groups, and this is one called Mai, and the plan of this is in accordance with astronomical observation. Linda Manzanilla from UNAM says the plan of the city reflects the movement of the sun, and this is the movement of the sun through here. This is perhaps the most famous building in Oshkintok. It's called the Labyrinth, or in Maya, Satun Sat. It's on 3 levels, and it's said that these represent the 3 levels of existence. This is the supramundo, the heavens, this is the earth, and this is the underworld. At the time of the equinox, the sun sets directly in line with these passages in the middle of the labyrinth, Sat and Sat. This structure has multiple orientations from different points on the ground. Here, appearing directly over the temple or the pyramid, all of these observations can be made. The Venus at its southernmost point, the solstice of winter, the alignment on the 9th of October, and I think this must be a misprint. It should be the 4th of March, as we saw before. The solstice of summer and Venus at its northern extreme. All of these, from different points on the ground, can record these phenomena at the top of the pyramid. Another group at Oshkintok is called the Arkanul group, or the Plaza of the Arch, and the sun appears through this arch. But more important is another time of the year, the 4th of March and the 9th of October again, when the sun shines through the arch, passes over an altar in the plaza and illuminates this little room here, which is the steam bath or the Temescal, Banyu de Vapor. So that these dates were probably ritual dates for purification of the priests, as well as important dates in the agricultural cycle. This shows the sun shining through the tiny door of the Temescal here and illuminating the bench inside. Okay, Mayapan, very similar to Chichen Itza in some ways. The pyramid is the same, and the same serpent figure appears at the equinox here. It has an observatory, the same, a temple of Venus. So we'll have a look at the orientations here in Mayapan. This is the observatory, although they call it the circular building, but everybody else would call it the observatory, I think. And these are the alignments that they have analysed in this building. The solstice at the corners, again, the same as Chichen Itza. Sunrise on these dates, which at the beginning of the talk were indicated as the most important or the most common dates for alignments of buildings related to the agricultural cycle, and here related to Venus, I think. There's a building called the Sala of the Frescoes. It has these paintings, and these are sun discs. Here is a sun disc with 2 escorts carrying lances to protect it, and there's a diving figure here. The diving figure usually represents Venus, and so this is a record of Venus the sun shines directly over the observatory and illuminates this mural on the 9th of April and the 2nd of September. 73 days again on either side of the summer solstice. This is an interesting mathematical equation. 73 times the Solken is 18,980, which is 52 times the solar year. Sometimes I think the Mayans just enjoyed playing with numbers, because I don't know whether that actually means anything. But it's fascinating anyway, even if it was just playing. Okay, in Uxmal, the most interesting building from our point of view is the Governor's Palace. These lines represent from the eastern door. Well, this main door faces east, the building faces east, and here they are observing the extremes of Venus, which we saw was very important to them. Venus appears as the morning star and rises and declines for 263 days. Then it disappears for 50 days and then reappears as the evening star for 263 days, disappears again for 8 days, and then comes back as the morning star. Well, we call it the morning star. Actually, it's the heart of the god Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan. When he was burned, his heart flew up to the sky and is actually the planet Venus. So anyway, we can call it Venus, but remember it's the heart of Kukulkan. It's interesting. I don't think that moth is a part of my toy. It's trying to climb the stairs, but they're so steep it can't get up. No. What's interesting here is that the time between one solstice and another is half a year, 182 days. And this is the number of masks that appear on the four sides of this building. Let's have a look. Okay, so we know that this was observations of the northern and southernmost point of Venus. Okay. So Venus was important for this building. The masks are the masks of Chak, the god of rain, which appear on the building. And on the lower eyelid of Chak is a glyph of Venus. So this association of Venus with the god of rain is important because the northern and most southern extremes of Venus is the period of the rains in Yucatán. Here's another astronomical point from the top of the pyramid through the ball court, directly through the House of the Doves to Venus setting at its southern maximum. This little unobtrusive observatory was only recently discovered, but apparently is one of the oldest observatories in the territory, and the sunset at equinox shines directly into this doorway, this little doorway. The building is very small, 1 point something meters by 2.1 meters. As the sun moves across the sky, it enters on the 4th of March and disappears on the 9th of October. The roof of the little observatory was open to record the passage of the sun directly overhead at the time of the zenith, 23rd of May, 19th of July. Here is an indication. Here is the equinox, here is the sun directly overhead, and the edge of the building aligns directly with Venus. Ekbalam is the last of our sites, and here are three orientations that have been discovered in this site. Here we have sunrise at the solstice, sunrise at the equinox, and sunrise at the winter solstice. Okay, passing over structure 10 and between the twin temples, like this. Here's structure 10. The sun rises directly over here and sets directly between the twin temples here. I think that's the lot. So let me... okay, just for interest's sake, here are some of the astronomical symbols that they used. The sun, the moon, an eclipse, and the Venus glyph that we saw before. This is from the Dresden Codex. This was sent to the King of Spain as an example of Mayan art, but the Spanish weren't very interested in it, and it got lost and eventually turned up in the public library in Dresden, which is why it's called the Dresden Codex. And it was rediscovered at the end of the 19th century, and scholars began looking at it, trying to work out what it all meant. Eventually, they discovered that it recorded eclipses. I'm not sure how they did that, but we'll have a closer look anyway. Sorry. Yes, here's a closer look at one page of the Codex. This documents solar eclipses. Here is the symbol that we saw for an eclipse. Here is the monster eating the sun. The solar eclipse is known as Chibalkin, which means to eat the sun. And this is the monster eating the sun. This is the symbol. Okay, these numbers, I presume, record when the eclipse happened. These are probably dates, and we saw before that there are many of these, so they recorded eclipse after eclipse. Their observation of the night sky, or of the sky in general, was constant and systematic. Obviously, they had to sit for 584 days to check that Venus came up again in the same place as it did 580 days before. So, incredible work. There's more examples of the eclipse tables. Here's the symbol again of the eclipse, and lots of dates, presumably. And this is how someone worked out that these were eclipse tables. Apparently, someone analysed these numbers and decided or discovered that these numbers refer to months or lunations. So this number, the Mayans counted in 20s, unlike the rest of the world which counts in 10s. the Mayans counted in 20s. To record a 20, you had to lift the numbers up one step. So these numbers here are 20s. So this represents 8 20s. The bar is 5, the dots are 1. This is 8 20s, plus here 3 5s plus 2, 17. He said, oh, okay, well, this means 6 lunations. I'm not sure exactly how he worked that out, because 6 28s is not 177, 6 30s is not 177, 5 lunations are not the same as our months or even a 28-day month. So I'm not sure how they did this, but anyway, this is an example of a solar table. This is one of the oldest codexes, and it is called the Mayan Codex, and the theme of this codex is Venus. I mentioned that Venus, the movement of Venus decided when they would fight a battle or when they would go to war, when they would sacrifice their captives, and it appears that that's what's happening here. This warrior has a captive, is holding him by his top knot, and he's on his knees about to be sacrificed. So this is part of the importance of Venus, because it determined when they would go to battle, when they would sacrifice their captives. Here's another. It says here, a beautiful example of a solar eclipse hieroglyph. The flying monster here going to eat the symbol of the sun hanging from the sky. Just for interest, these are the 13 constellations, not 12 as we have, but 13. Remember that there are 13 levels in the upper world as well. There are 13 numbers in the ritual calendar with 20 days to make the 260. What's the significance of 13? I've looked for this information and I can't find it. Maybe you can. All I can figure is that a year is 13 months if we take a month to mean 4 weeks. So 28 days by 13 is 364, I'm afraid. There's 1 day left. Well, we'll call that an unlucky day. So maybe 13 is the 13 phases of the moon through a solar year. I'm not sure. Anyway, these are the 13 constellations, which don't exactly correspond to ours, of course, because 13 won't go into 12 evenly. But this is an example of one. This is the jaguar, and here is the symbol, and here is the jaguar on this codex. They were also aware of the Milky Way, of course. Who can avoid it? For them, the Milky Way was called Yucatán, which means the raised up serpent. And they pictured it as a canoe. This canoe is rowed by a manta ray and a jaguar. And in the canoe is an iguana, a monkey, a parrot, and a dog, and the god of maize. Now the god of maize jumped out of the canoe and took the fire from the 3 stones in the sky and gave it to humans. These 3 stones in the sky are in the constellation of Orion. These are the three stones. The Mayans call these the three stones of the home. And if you go to a Mayan home, you will see three stones where they do their cooking. On the three stones they put their comal, and there they make their tortillas or whatever they are cooking. These are the three stones of the home in the constellation of Orion. Okay, this is a summary of the alignments that I talked about during this talk, just for interest's sake, but from the 12th of February, sunrise, the beginning and end of the agricultural season, the same here at Mayapan. The 4th of March and the 9th of October we saw a number of times sunrise and sunset, before and after the solstice. 17th of March and the 25th of September at Zibul Jaltun, before and after the equinox. 21st of March is a popular one. This is the spring and autumn equinox. 23rd of March, 20th of September, the windows at Zibul Jaltun, where the light disappears as the sun sets. The 9th of April, 2nd of September, the plan of La Venta, 73 days before and after the solstice. The 9th of April, the 2nd of September, the Mayapan murals, the same date as La Venta. These two, the same. This is the time of the zenith. The zenith again, directly overhead. And here, the summer and winter solstice, 21st of June, 21st of December. And I think, oh, that's it. Scott, lights. I was going to say before I started that what you see is what you get. This is all I know, okay? So if you have any technical questions, I probably can't answer them.